Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. Here we go, semi-instant reaction. I had to speak to a USC grad class today, so I was really interesting kids and did that for an hour, a little over an hour. So I came out of the class and I heard the news the Denver Broncos had released Russell Wilson, which saves them $37 million, but they still have about $85 million in dead cap money, which is like double the most ever. And I believe that was Matt Ryan, Falcons, when they moved off him. So you're going to have to hit on some draft picks. The only way to ease the pain, and remember, the NFL did come in, gave everybody $30 million more in cap space. That helps. And hitting on 4 draft picks that could play or start, that helps. But for a year, it's going to be pretty ugly. Let's first start about blame. Who to blame? Well, Sean Payton needs to win games, and Russell Wilson wants to find a landing spot. Those guys are not in the blame game. They're in the turn the page game, and I don't blame them. Their energy is going to be Russell Wilson wants to find a better team. I think Pittsburgh's perfect. You cannot be in a division with Joe Burrow twice a year, Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson twice a year, and Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh twice a year with Kenny Pickett. Can't. Go look at the Vegas odds. Steelers near the bottom of the NFL. I think you roll the dice, you go with Russell Wilson. His maturity and devotion and commitment is what the Steelers need offensively. They got some receivers who I really like, but they're a little young, a little immature. They're ready to go. And their offensive line is okay, not special, and Russell Wilson is still mobile enough to avoid some of that stuff. So I think it works. I think the culture and the personnel in Pittsburgh is good. They don't have a trigger guy. They don't have a quarterback. And in the AFC, you're not going anywhere unless you have a star. Even if it's a declining star, you got to have a star to win games. So I think Russell Wilson will do just fine. Denver's going to probably go get out a J.J. McCarthy or a Bo Nix. I will tell you, Denver's schedule, they get the NFC South. That's the good news. The bad news, they also face the AFC North. So their road games next year for Denver, beyond facing Harbaugh, Justin Herbert and the Chargers, beyond facing Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Chiefs, they go to Baltimore. Yeah, Ravens pretty good at home. They go to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, to New Orleans and Derek Carr, to Tampa and Baker Mayfield, to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and to Seattle. That ain't great for a rookie quarterback. Now, the home schedule, they get Atlanta, Carolina at home, but Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Colts at home. Now, they have the schedule. They don't know when the dates are, but those are some tough road games. Those are harsh environments, going toe-to-toe with really good quarterbacks in many instances. Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. There's some L's there. Mahomes once, Justin Herbert once with Harbaugh. I think maybe I wasn't like this in my 20s, but as I've aged, pointing fingers doesn't solve anything. Listen, you want to point fingers, you could point to the Broncos GM, George Payton. He gave up 2 first, 2 second round picks. I think he gave up 3 players and maybe a 5th round pick. He also hired Nat Hackett, and that was a complete disaster. Many believe he hired Nathaniel Hackett because he tried to get Aaron Rodgers, and when he couldn't, Russell and Nat Hackett's offense just didn't work. So he has created $85 million of dead cap. He gave up a lot of draft capital. He picked the wrong head coach, and Sean Payton's got to pick up the pieces from there. But I don't think George Payton, and I do respect the job he's done mostly, but you can only have so many big whiffs. And Hackett and Russell, that's a big whiff. Coach quarterback league whiffed on both. So, and I don't think Russell would have, people can get all over Sean Payton. Sean and Russell were not going to work. But what coach would you really need to work? I mean, after Nat Hackett bombed, who wanted the job? I mean, ask yourself, you would have a rookie coach? Would he have worked with Russell Wilson? I mean, the personnel is what it is based on what you were paying Russell Wilson and what you surrendered in the draft. There were some limitations here. So I think Sean Payton will figure it out. But I think if Russell Wilson went to the Steelers, he'll have a better year than J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix with the Broncos. I don't think there's any question about that. So year 2 feels like, Sean Payton just getting out from under Russell Wilson, the player. Now he has to spend another year getting out from under the dead cap hit in a division with Justin Herbert, Harbaugh, Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid. That is a big, big hill to climb. But I've never felt, and I said this, I know Sean Payton well enough after 20 interviews with him and a dinner with him and spending time with him and talking to him. I just never felt he and Russ. That's why I thought it was strange when he took the job. I didn't think it was a job. He wanted the Chargers job initially, but I think the Denver owners have a lot of cash, came in, wrote a big check, and it's hard to look the other way. I get it. But this was never going to be easy. Sean is a very direct, very authentic, very opinionated person. And, Russell is hopelessly optimistic, and he is a declining quarterback. And there are some psychological factors when a quarterback gets older. He wants his money. He wants his protection. And I don't think Russell ever felt supported by Nat Hackett's incompetence or Sean Payton's brutal honesty. And so I didn't think it was a good fit. So let's move on and start over. I still think Russell Wilson has several good years in him. He's not a disaster. He's not washed. He just needs the right pieces. And, I've been saying this for years. Pittsburgh's personnel's, they have all the things you need. They have weapons on the outside offensively. They have a run game, and they have speed on the perimeter. They have a pass rusher. They have playmakers on defense. They're not great at corner. Nobody outside of maybe the Jets and the Chiefs is great at corner. We have a corner shortage in the NFL, an elite corner shortage. So, and once again, it's a great NFL draft for wide receivers. It's like the fourth straight draft, great wide receiver draft, not a great corner draft. So that problem will be exacerbated. You're just going to have more great receivers and fewer great corners. Get in on the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers who deposit $5 or more can get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. How cool of a deal is that? All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. It takes 90 seconds and use the code Colin, COLIN. This is the best deal you're going to find. New customers, it's a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. How cool is that? Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Code is Colin. The crown is yours. Denver's in the AFC. They got to go find their next quarterback star. And history tells you if there's 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, one's going to be a hit, 2 are going to work kind of, one's going to be a bust, and 1 or 2 they won't get a second contract. And so, I'll say this, I think outside of Caleb Williams, the rest of these quarterbacks will be as good as the place they land. So I think if it's Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy, I think both can succeed with Sean Payton. Both. I think J.J. McCarthy's got a better arm than Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix has far more college starts and is more accurate than J.J. McCarthy. But it just depends on what you like. JJ's a little taller. I think, in my opinion, Bo Nix I feel like he's kind of elusive. The deep ball, I take JJ McCarthy. Accuracy, I take Bo Nix. Experience, I'd take Bo Nix. I think JJ McCarthy may have a higher ceiling. Bo Nix a little lower ceiling, but it could be that Bo Nix has a higher floor than JJ McCarthy. So I think both those guys, that would be a perfect place to land. I don't think Michael Penix, though I love the way he throws, I don't think Denver would take the risk on him being his injury history. They got to get this thing right. And I just feel like Bo Nix works for that offense. Accuracy, experience, kid that's been around. He carried Oregon at times, whereas J.J. McCarthy felt sometimes, not to be unfair, but like he was carried by Michigan's O-line, run game, coaching, and dominating defense. So I think that's the direction they'll go. Jarrett Stidham can start for the time being. He's capable. He's okay. That's obviously not the future. It does matter, though, that the rookie quarterback is going to come into a system where, they pay like $12 million a year for Jarrett Stidham. So he's going to take some snaps. Stidham got some snaps this year. He'll probably start the season. I could see absolutely you get a J.J. McCarthy or a Bo Nix, and you're like, listen, we're earmarking Thanksgiving. And, Stidham struggles with a tough schedule that includes trips to Baltimore and Cincinnati and Kansas City. And, I could see the Jarrett Stidham struggling, and then Sean Payton saying, all right, it's week 7, week 6, let's go with a kid. I'm fine with that too. But in the end, it was a big swing by Denver. I was surprised how bad the Russell Wilson Nat Hackett combination was. I just remember the first game that he played in Denver and they went to Seattle to face the Seahawks and they couldn't figure out the clock with 2 minutes to go. It was like, oh, we got a coordinator, not a great one, trying to be a head coach. This isn't going to work. So, and I think you've seen that in New York with Nat Hackett and Zach Wilson. So it happened. We can point fingers. I think it was inevitable. I don't think the personalities clash. You don't have to be best friends with your quarterback. Belichick and Brady reportedly didn't have a dinner in 20 years. You don't have to be best friends. But I think Russell may be the most optimistic player in the league. And I think Sean Payton on the other end is the most authentic and raw and outspoken in the league. So, I mean, you have a chasm there of personalities, whereas Belichick and Brady are both intensely driven, workaholics, work over everything else. They were kind of on the same plane and in the same direction for years. I think Tom's a little more joyful and easier to be around. Bill's a little more old school. But a lot of things Brady and Belichick were very similar on their ascension, their drive, their work ethic, and their commitment to the sport. Sean and Russell, you couldn't pick a more optimistic quarterback, maybe Kirk Cousins, and a more raw coach than Sean Payton. It's oil and water. It never worked. That's okay. Don't need to blame anybody. It's okay. Sean's won a Super Bowl. So has Russ. They've both won Super Bowls. They're more than capable. George Payton, on the other hand, I would be surprised if he has a lot of tarmac left. You whiff on a coach, you whiff on a quarterback, 85 mil dead cap space, or 85 mil dead cap. That's going to leave a mark. That lingers. And remember, this division now, they got Andy Reid and Jim Harbaugh. And pretty good coaches. Pretty good coaches. Instant reaction. There you have it. More tomorrow on FS1 and iHeartRadio.